Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last panel of this amazing event. I'm glad to see there's so many here. And we'd like to provide sort of an interesting and fun conversation here at the end. And hopefully we'll have time at the end if you want to ask any questions of the panelists. Let me first introduce everyone. We have Her Excellency Aisha Miran, Assistant Secretary General, Strategy, Management, and Government at Dubai Executive Council. Dr. Peter Bishop, Founder and Executive Director of Teach the Future, Professor Emeritus of Strategic Foresight, and Director of the Graduate Program in Foresight at the University of Houston. Dr. Ozcan Saritas, Head of Laboratory for Science and Technology Studies at the HSE University, Honorary Professor at Manchester Institute of Innovation Research, and at the University of Manchester, and Editor-in-Chief of Foresight, the Journal of Future Studies, Strategic Thinking and Policy. You guys got out of order. And Dr. Erik Øverland, President of World Future Studies Federation, also Counselor, Special Envoy for Education and Research at the Norwegian Embassy in Berlin, previously a policy advisor for the Minister of Education. All these words, guys, can't you just have simple titles? And research in Norway, and a guest lecturer at Free University in Berlin and University of Stavanger on foresight management issues. And just so you know, I am Susan Cox-Smith. I'm a partner and director experience at Changeist, and the contributing editor on How to Future, Leading in Sense Making in an Age of Hyperchange, which my partner at Changeist, Scott Smith, was just signing books for if you happen to pick one up. So let's get started. I'm going to have a seat, and the questions come out. Just to preface, in Dubai, future foresight is mandated as a necessary skill for its federal workforce, and the government actively provides futuring education through multiple channels. Some of these programs are highly competitive, such as the Mohammed bin Rashid Center for Leadership Development and the Dubai Future Experts Program, which we just completed teaching modules for this year. There are quite a few others in Dubai and the region. Your Excellency, can you give us some insight into the thinking behind this initiative to invest in foresight education in Dubai?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's an honor to be part of the panel today. I mean, it's no wonder that we're living in a world that is full of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And this dictates that we need to find new ways of dealing with things. Future foresight is one tool that we can use in order to prepare ourselves for the future. Being short-sighted, narrow-minded, simplistic, linear thinking, and lack of understanding of the past and the present will not help us to prepare ourselves for the future. In addition, as policymakers, and this is what we do, as public servants, it's all about creating a desirable future. However, one of the pitfalls we tend to go into is that when we design a policy, we have this present bias, which is basically trying to solve current issues, and trying to ignore what the future has to offer in terms of opportunities and challenges. Therefore, a saying comes to mind of Al Gore when he says, "The future whispers while the present shouts," We need to change that thinking, and having a well-designed, resourced foresight toolbox and an approach will help us to prepare ourselves on how we can deal with these uncertainties and volatilities. And this is exactly the thinking of our leadership in the UAE and in Dubai in specific. There is a saying, again, by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, UAE Vice President, Prime Minister of the UAE, and the ruler of Dubai, when he says, "The future belongs to those who design it. The future belongs to those who design it, who basically execute it, and who actually knows how to be prepared for the future, because it's not something that we await, but we create. And we can actively influence and create that future, though it is unpredictable." So today we are being hosted by an organization which is the baby of that vision set by His Highness, the Dubai Future Foundation, its subsidiary, the Dubai Future Academy, as well as if we think of Mohammed bin Rashid Program for Leadership Development, if we think of Mohammed bin Rashid Center for Government Innovation, if we think as well of Dubai Government Excellence Program, which again sets the foresight and the scenario planning and the horizon scanning as part of the culture of the government agencies and the entities. So it's all about equipping the current workforce and the future generation with the right skill sets and the competencies so that they're well prepared for the future to come. So this is basically the idea and the philosophy behind those initiatives. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think those of you who've been here or those of you who are from here, this is such an embedded trait or skill that the belief is strong that this is important for everyone to have. So it's a very, it's embedded in the culture at this point, which I think is very, very excellent. Thank you for that. I want to say here that I'm going to use futures or futuring as sort of shorthand for all of the different ways that we talk about education. Some people work in foresight, some people work in strategy. We have, terms like future learning and futures literacy. So to just keep things consistent, the understanding is they will all fall underneath the term just futures work or foresight. So I'm going to go to Ozcan. What skills and capabilities will be necessary in futures and foresight work going forward? Are there new tools being developed, or are the old tools evolving over time?
Yeah, it's a very good question. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be here and to catch up my friends and the new ones. So there has been excellent discussions. Of course, things are changing. The world is changing, and foresight is changing too. Foresight is changing the world, and in turn, the world changes foresight. So as a foresight researcher, of course, I'm continuously asking the question myself, and how can we improve our foresight in this new era, which is very different than the past? Of course, some of the things continue from the past, but we have some new challenges, and at the same time, new opportunities. Foresight has gone far beyond than only predicting the future. So we are talking about multiple futures, alternative futures, inclusive futures, and we are focusing on different issues, grand challenges, and also science and technology giving us a lot of opportunities to deal with those challenges. Things are shaping and changing very fast, and we see that even long term is actually not very long term. Even tomorrow can be very uncertain and complex in foresight terms. So we are actually interested in all time horizons, different time horizons, and we need to develop, of course, some new skills and capabilities. Our content is changing. The issues we are focusing on are different than what they used to be. We are, again, thinking about the future, science and technology, very fast changes. And at the same time, we see that there are developments, for example, which are pushing our boundaries of thinking. And we need to extend our thinking beyond our human intelligence because, for example, we see great developments in machine learning, artificial intelligence, and we are moving into the era of collected or connected human and artificial intelligence, so which I term as CHAI. So we need to find some ways to converge our brains and with the power and processing power of machines. So this is the collective human artificial intelligence is the territory we need to enter because we will see more, we will understand our nature better, we will be able to collect more information, more data, we'll have more processing power, we will be able to visualize all this data and communicate it in an understandable way. Because if we don't understand what's going on around us, we will never be able to develop proper policies and strategies for that purpose. We actually have made some progress as humanity, but we still have a lot more to do, a lot more distance to go. So there are a lot of unknown around us. If we are, for example, I always like giving this as a case, if we are still experiencing energy problem in such a planet and in such a universe where there are a lot of planets, a lot of stars, and we live on an Earth which actually rotates around it and around the sun, energy is everywhere. And we are still thinking about coal and oil and those sort of primitive energy sources and still trying to find our way on how to formulate it, how to deal with its politics and its economics and etc. Very primitive questions. We need to explore the boundaries of, push the boundaries of science and enter into that territory of unknown unknowns. So these are some of the skills. Deal with science, go into that territory, explore new rules of physics, biology, chemistry, and then focus on those areas, and we will understand that we are really dealing with a lot of meaningless problems, and a lot more opportunities are ahead of us.
That actually leads me to my next question, which is a fast response question, and that is, should futures be taught as an art or a science? To all of you, to each of you, one sentence or less, art or science?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Should futures be taught as an art or a science?
Both.
I agree.
If I may say something to that? Okay. Well, if it's going to be art or science, I think science is turning into art and art is turning into science in many ways. So, of course, I agree with Peter. We have to think in both terms. But when
One
that
sentence,
is said,
one sentence.
Okay.
Ozcan.
Foresight is the art and science of anticipating the future.
Okay.
And we are designing life for the future. And the life consists of both science and technology, and also cultures, values, arts, and aesthetics. So my background is architecture. Actually, this is what exactly architecture does. So our job is to use these beautiful materials, understand their size, and then understand the capacities they may carry, for example, steel, wood, and all of them.
Okay.
And then combine it with arts
One sentence.
and this beautiful place that we want to be. So,
Your Excellency, do you have a thought?
So I came across a fascinating statement that says it is the art of anticipation based on the science of exploration.
Very nice, thank you. I land very firmly in the art column, but that's because I come from a design background. Erik, what countries are ramping up their foresight programs now, whether at the university level or through continuing ed or short-form courses?
Well, first of all, I'm happy to be here. I'm the president of World Future Study Federation, and we have members in more than 60 countries, almost 70 now. So what we experience is that a huge increase in attention and interest of doing relate the future in one way or another, and also to try to develop educational schemes in the field. What we also experience is a total confusion about what this is about. And I guess all of you have that same feeling when you are advocate. We want to do foresight, we want to create foresight courses, future studies, master programs, or on other different levels. So you're sitting in a position and you want to advocate that perspective, but you don't know exactly how to institutionalize it. And you have surrounding, for example, we have a lot of universities that are institutional members of the Federation, and they will also have ambitions to create foresight courses for educational schemes within at the university level. So what we were thinking, we're sitting down, I was, what could we do to help those actors out there who are advocating this perspective, these kind of approaches, So we created a program that we called accreditation program, in which we tried to identify some indicators and curriculums, some basic curriculums for educational schemes at university level. And we also creating a packet of services that we offer university, for example, to be able to establish things like that on the university level. And I think this kind of institutionalization of these approaches that we are advocating is extremely important. And also to get it acknowledged by the surrounding professions that we are and our colleagues in other departments. So if it's going to be a profession in itself or not, I won't take that discussion, but I think at least you have to create a better infrastructure than we have so far, and we advocate that thing.
That's great, thank you. Peter, I'm going to come to you now. Can you speak a little bit about your work at Teach the Future and what the students are actually learning there?
As most of you know, I certainly hope that we are, particularly except for these two young gentlemen here in the front row, almost all adults. Look around, right? We should be talking to each other. We should have this conference. I suspect somewhere in Dubai there are young people learning a lot. They're in schools. What they're not learning is about the future. If we're having an intense discussion, if we're learning how, as my colleagues here have pointed out, that we have to approach the future in a new way, they're not part of that discussion. We need to make them part of that discussion, both in school and out of school. So what would they learn? I found out, and I reflected upon my own education and education as we know it today. They are actually learning about the future, but not the right things. In science class, they learn about the future. They learn the future is predictable. If they do an experiment and come up with the right answer, they get an A, they go to a fancy university. So they get out into the economy or the political system and say, well, if we could predict that, why can't we predict who's going to win the election? And they believe someday they will be able to do that. I don't know someday. I don't expect to see that. They also believe that the future is more or less determined. And where did they learn that? From history class. One thing after the other, cause, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect, wars and revolutions and inventions and migrations and whatever, all caused by the previous events. Did anybody ever ask, did the people in that past think about the future as determined? Of course not. They didn't know the end of their story. We know the end of their story, and it looks like it's just, well, it was obvious that it was going to turn out that way. So they come out of school thinking the future is predictable, or someday it will be, that it's determined, and that whatever I do is not going to change things very much. So what do they learn, Susan? They learn the art, as Her Excellency said, the art of anticipation, the science of anticipation. They learn to expect both what we call the expected future, if everything just charges ahead as it is and nothing surprising happens. I don't think that's going to occur, but that's where we start. And then we also ask the question, what if? So they learn both of those, not one or the other. So we take the predicted future, which is what everybody knows about, and we challenge it and say, and these other things are also possible. But we also teach them that they are not victims. They are not only passive actors or watching a movie go by. They are the people who, as John Gardner said, we are the people we've been waiting for. We are the people who will change the future. And we can't change the big things, most of us. We don't have that kind of power. But we can change our neighborhood. And indeed, what I really want school students to do is to participate in the future of their schools. We want students to be leaders. When do we teach them that? When do we give them the chance to practice that? We want them to be critical thinkers. When do we give them the chance to practice that? Oh no, you have to learn all this stuff. Don't bring in all those things. So what they learn is two things basically: how to anticipate an unexpected future, and how to influence the future to the extent that they have that influence. They can't change everything, but they can change some things.
Great, thank you very much. That's amazing. I've got another fast response question for you, and it's related to this. So some of you may have changed your minds in the last minute or so. I'll start with you, Your Excellency. What is the best age for learners to be introduced to the concepts of futuring?
I think you got the answer from Dr. Peter's answer a while back. It needs to be embedded in schooling. You need to prepare your future generation to think from now in designing their future. So I would say from school age, we need them to understand, to give them the right skill sets in order to prepare for that future and design it from now.
Absolutely. Peter, you already said. Do you want to give a number?
No, I have to first of all confess that I don't know what to say to an 8-year-old. But I believe there are people who do. There are initiatives, and one of them I just met with today in Abu Dhabi, who are doing early childhood education. There are fundamental concepts that can be introduced in first grade and second grade and third grade, and even in preschool, so that when they get to that older grades, they don't have to start from scratch.
Now we'll have arguments about age-appropriate futures knowledge. Eric.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit uncertain about the kindergarten thing, I must admit. No, I mean, it depends on what kind of concept you have and what kind of approach you have to future thinking. I mean, I'm from Norway, and in Norway we have a very strong kindergarten system in which on kindergarten, they should already be with the age of 4 and 5, 3, 4 and 5, you just start digitalization, for example. And they just start to try to do mathematics and things like that in a very, very early age. So I'm a bit reluctant to say that on that level we should start thinking about the future deliberately, although explicitly, because children, they live in the future as they live in the past and the present, so they don't necessarily want to be very explicit about it. Okay.
All right, Ozcan?
Well, futures thinking is an unavoidable characteristics of human being. One of those characteristics we have inherently. So we always think about the future. We always think about the consequences of our actions. We always prioritize things. If we are here today, for example, together, that means we have prioritized this event against the other things that we could do, because this is much more important. Maybe we use different criteria for that, but we all used our foresight, and we used our valuable time to be here because this is our priority. So our foresight education should just activate this thinking, because it's inherently in our genes, and we should just make sure that we activate it and make people aware of it and use it in the end.
Thank you. I'm looking at our time, and I'm going to move to a question that the audience maybe anticipate is coming, but the panel definitely knows is coming, and that is, the standard perception of futurists tend to be older, white, Western men, though more women, Asians, and people of color from the global South are entering the field. For each of you, do you think it's possible to reach a more equitable diversity of practitioners, and how long do you think that will take, if ever? So we will try to keep these responses short and sweet, but I'm going to go to Your Excellency. Do you want to weigh in on this?
Not to offend anyone, but I would say women are coming strong across all fields. And I don't see this as something that is different from any other field. Numbers are growing. We spoke about it a while back. I'd rather not see biases in this field, where it is a stereotype or a typical demographic that belongs to this field. So I think more and more women are entering this field, and hopefully we see more. I want to keep it here. I don't want to say more, with respect to my colleagues.
Ozcan, let's go to you.
Well, of course, this is an important point. So if we are not involving or engaging people, women, we are ignoring the other half of us. So we are a planet together, we are a world together. So we should bring this together equally, and we should create our future together. Because we do it together in our families, and we can do it in our cities, countries, and in the whole world. So we shouldn't ignore this power of thinking, this richness of thinking in our life, and have it always on board, on the side of us.
Great. Erik?
Yeah, I think the challenge is within this field the same as the challenge in other sectors and other areas. And that's the, the wish and the need to be more reflective towards heterogeneity. I think that must be the baseline. It's very funny when we're preparing for this panel, we just discovered that we tried to discuss this question, and we're sitting here three relatively mature male with, so we found out that it's something in the stereotype. So we really have to go more deeply into be more reflective to our heterogeneity, and that's also what we are trying to do in the federation. Although, because if you look at the federation, I mean, the federation is turning 50 years old next year, and there's also a lot of people who have been there from the very beginning, and so the average age is relatively high, but the dynamic and the intensity is still very, very solid, I would say. So we have some, okay.
Okay. Peter?
Let me answer like a foresight educator, please. You started the premise with a trend. Trends lead to the expected future. As a result, yes, absolutely, I expect there to be a fair amount of gender and ethnic diversity in the future of the field. It is also my personal, and probably your personal future, and it is absolutely necessary for quality work, because one of our principles is that individuals or homogeneous groups do not have enough perspective, enough diverse perspectives to be able to come up with the imaginative alternative futures and alternative preferences of a homogeneous group. So it is not only expected, it is preferred, because we need all people to be participating in the field in order to prepare for an unexpected and challenging future.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go off on a sort of side tangent here and ask about whether you feel that futures training is actually a useful skill for non-futurists to have. Is it an effective tool for encouraging more resilient outcomes in the face of uncertain futures?
If I can pick that one up, Susan, thank you very much for the question. Absolutely, 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 yes. I mean, the term that we use, and is a term that has been used in UNESCO, and we use it not as a technique, but as a general objective, and that is futures literacy. The ability to manage what we do as professionals also in our personal lives. We know about financial literacy. You don't have to be an accountant in order to know to save some money, know how much you're paying on your credit card, what you're going to pay for that car over the life of that car. That's financial literacy. There's media literacy. There's digital literacy. We should have futures literacy for everyone and teach that to every single student. We should be teaching math and history and science as literatures, not necessarily as contents. And I believe that what we're doing here as professionals in a very excellent way should be disseminated to the whole of the population. I'm not going to see that myself, but that's a vision that we have.
Anybody else?
Yeah, well, I can just support what Peter is saying here. I think a lot of the competences that you need as a futurist is related to process competences. I mean, you are facilitating a workshop, you're facilitating seminars, you're facilitating dialogues with a lot of different people. So that is a unique kind of process competence that you have to develop. That's one thing. But if you look at the content and the groups, the actors that you want to involve, it could be all kind of actors, of course. So you have to sort of find a balance between the process competence and the content competences.
Great. So if you look at LinkedIn, you might notice that the current number of global job postings for futurists is literally off the charts. Unfortunately, a lot of these postings list experience requirements, to me, might be contrary to what a good futurist should be and know. So from each one of you, what's one important defining characteristic you believe every good futurist should have? Your Excellency?
I would say that the future belongs to those who are curious. So I would think of curiosity as an important trait.
Excellent.
I would put down the ability to imagine and entertain and accept alternative answers and alternative solutions, which again, we are not learning in school. Remember, you got through school by getting the right answer, not for getting 3 good answers. And as a result, I think the ability to think in alternatives, alternative scenarios, and alternative value sets is one of the essential characteristics.
To me, to be a futurist and to be part of this community is related to 2 terms, and it's generosity and it's also creativity. So first time I came into this field, I was so stuck and I was so impressed by, you know, the bit craziness and the kind of generous, what you call it, the curiosity and inside it. Okay.
For me, what is important at this time is to combine quantitative and qualitative. This is an absolute important skill for futurists. We need to be creative, of course. We need to design the future, but at the same time, we need to be able to measure it, understand it, and reflect it, and bring this evidence and data together with our creativity. This is how we can innovate for the future.
Great, thank you. I've got another fast response question, and this is also LinkedIn related. I'm kind of shocked at how many people list futurist on their LinkedIn profiles. Does it help or hurt that everyone claims to be a futurist now?
Both.
Well, of course, if you see, it's a lot of attention toward that, to think in new terms about relating to futures, and that brings with you a lot of people who are not necessarily got the competences that I was talking about, but really want to look at themselves as futurists or future thinkers in many ways. So that's the reason why we have to be so to find a kind of a baseline of what are we talking about if you want to be, what kind of competences do you need, what kind of expectation do we have for a person who is acting as a futurist in the field. So that's the reason why we actually, in particular in the academic field, we have to be more systematic and we have to find out what are we talking about. If you want a professor in biochemistry is to also act as a kind of a futurist, what is this person supposed to do? What he's not doing in his regular conventional work. So we have to be very clear about that.
Well, and I think partly what we deal with is there's been a dilution of, you know, what people think or who they think of as a futurist. And so it's a very, very broad window of possibility, and you can't really have any understanding of what does this person actually know or how do they actually, you know. So Peter, yes.
Let me bring a little bit of history. When I entered the Future Studies program at the University of Houston, we told people do not put the word futurist on their resume. That was a rejection right out of the box. You would never get a job doing that. Now we're a trend. I'm not so sad about that. Yes, the marketplace has to decide who are the real futurists, like the people in this room, and who are just using that term, which is now a popular term. I'm glad we got a popular term. I don't want to tell students, don't tell anybody who you are or what you are, or else they may laugh at you or never give you a job. So I think we're actually in a better position being part of the trend than not being part of the trend.
At least people have heard of it now, right?
What did they say? No bad publicity, only good.
Do you want to say?
Yeah, well, all of us are futurists, right? Aren't we? So what value does it add, I mean, to our title if we have it, you know, on our CV or resume? So it is very important that actually we practice it. And we look into the future, design the future, and we don't leave the future in the future, but we bring this future into the present with some actionable policies and strategies. So the ones actually who can do that may comfortably call themselves as futurists.
Terrific, terrific. We have about 5 minutes left. Are there any questions in the audience that you'd like to ask of the panel? Jim? There are mics. Can someone bring Jim a mic, please? He's over here.
I was part of a little discussion in the lobby just a few minutes ago. Said there should be Q&A in these sessions. I guess we weren't quite ready for that. It's kind of a big surprise.
Thank you. So my question is about super forecasting. So in super forecasting, I don't know how much everyone knows about. So they know what good looks like, and they know what expertise looks like and what non-experts look like. So my question to the panel, if you don't know about super forecasting, I've got another question. But how do we know what good looks like beyond super forecasting? And what can we learn from super forecasting? And if you don't know much about super forecasting, they make a big deal about teams perform better than individuals, and diversity is really important as well. So for a futurist, is it better to be an individual or a team?
Let me take that to start with. Super forecasting has an advantage that future studies does not have, and they use accuracy as a criterion. So they basically have a contest. People are given questions and they put in answers, and then they study the people who get closer to the actual future that does emerge. That's a wonderful process. It's a research project. We're not about accuracy. We're about diversity. We're about alternatives. So in that sense, we can't use accuracy as a criterion. So we differ from super forecasting. At the same time, you just said diverse perspectives, curiosity, more information, thinking of alternatives, using speculation. Those are all the things that Philip Tetlock is saying that super forecasters do. Yes, we should follow their process too.
Great, thank you. I think there was a woman in blue back there. Did you get a mic? Okay.
Hi, I'm not going, sorry. It's my teacher voice. I'm not going to ask really a question. I want to say something because I'm from the Teach the Future team and also from the WFS team. So there's something delicate about teaching the future. We educate our competitors. So we need to be really careful when going with a futurist or whatever it's called, or either in the resume or something, because we are in danger. I, for example, myself was copied in a workshop by a previous, a student, for example, and since I don't have a copyright yet, I was like, oh, just change the name and that's it, no, from another person. So now my methodology is being taught by an ex-student, but with, I don't know, like 20 hours of having studied foresight, you know? So there's a delicate thing about that. So we just need to be really aware of how and what are we teaching. And there's an ethics issue in that. So it's really important to also take ethics on board when teaching the future. That's my comment.
Interesting observation. We have someone right here in the front. And we have 1 minute left, so we will make this a fast one.
Yes, I will make this a fast one. Thank you. First of all, I just want to comment to that. I think that there's a focal point of scarcity methodology behind that, and I really want to understand how can we as futurists curate a philosophy based off of abundance, because we are creating something for the future and really philosophizing something for our youth. So you know, if we take this propaganda of understanding the past and understanding the patterns of the past, what can we do to cultivate new patterns and really teach the future from this abundance perspective, which we all are inherently born with?
Who would like to take that one?
Okay. If I understood the question right, I think we have to try to, so the foresight community have to reflect the development in the society around us the whole time, and also try to create education schemes that are reflecting what people think that they need. And also regarding your question, and also what the other gentleman down there was pinpointing at, we came into this field as a reaction towards more conventional linear forecasting, modeling thinking, and system thinking from the 60s and the 50s. But now we see it's changing a lot. The whole landscape is changing. I mean, it's if you're going to do in the prediction market area, or we're doing a forecast analysis, it depends on the subject that we're trying to elaborate. So I think it's not either or, but it's a both and I think through big data and the new synergy technologies, we have to rethink our conventional approach also as futurists and foresighters.
Okay, we're a minute 15 over, so I'm gonna end here. If you two would like to continue to have that conversation, I think that's a very interesting topic to talk about. Thank you very much. It's been so wonderful to be here for the past 2 days and to be here to close out. Thank you again to the panel. You've been amazing. We're over time, so almost 2 minutes. So if you would like to speak to the panelists off stage, then absolutely please let them know your thoughts and questions. And thank you again.